A CBS News investigation has revealed a major cover-up in the federal Job Corps program.
And this includes the one right here in Albuquerque. Job Corps is a taxpayer-funded program to help troubled kids get an education, a job training, and find a job. Well, some former workers with it tell us that they now say schools are lying about their success rates and sweeping dangerous problems under the rug. The federal money is pouring in as well to qualify for bonuses. They say there's been student drug and alcohol use that went unreported, and they say they've gotten graduation certificates when they never went to class. Samantha Scott left the program last year. She detailed multiple claims of fraud in this letter to the Department of Labor investigators.
You know, in theory, the student's going to go out into the workforce supposedly being a skilled welder, and they have no idea what they're doing. They never even step foot in the shop.
Scott also told News 13 workers in Albuquerque were ordered to call managers before calling 911 for emergencies. Just this year alone, we found out APD has responded to the Albuquerque Job Corps campus 28 times. We tried to ask the site director about all this yesterday. We were told no one was available. A new study that looks at cities all around the country to see who has the most financially responsible people shows Albuquerque, oh, we've got some work to do. WalletHub looked at household averages in 150 metro areas across the country, ranking the best to worst at budgeting. Albuquerque fell toward the bottom at 129. Walt Vieira with Universal Lending Corporation says part of this is just because there are not a lot of high-paying jobs out here.
There's not a lot of money left over for families, so budgeting's got to be very difficult for a lot of New Mexicans.
To see who's spending more than they make, the budget study looked at everything from savings and debt to credit scores. Some of the cities with the most financially responsible people are Minneapolis, Boston, and San Francisco. Most of the cities in the bottom 10 are in the South, with Jackson, Mississippi being last.
The back pay that is owed to thousands of state workers is hitting more snags. To this point, the state has only sent out checks to 4,200 of the 10,000 people owed money. A court ruled last year that the workers were entitled to the back pay because the Richardson administration did not properly set aside funds the legislature approved. The state had said that the checks would be in the mail by the end of September, but it says that they must go out via certified mail, and there's been a problem sending them in bulk. The state's also finding a lot of old addresses. It's unclear how much longer it will take to get the rest of the checks out. The American Civil Liberties Union is suing the federal government over the immigration detention center down in southeastern New Mexico. Several hundred of undocumented immigrants are being housed in Artesia. The ACLU and others filed a lawsuit this week that the facility is nothing more than, quote, a deportation mill. They also claim the government has failed to send them deportation and asylum numbers. This comes after the mayor of Artesia released figures showing Immigration and Custom Enforcement has released more people than it's deported. The state says a veterinarian at a shelter here in New Mexico has allowed more than a dozen animals in his care to suffer in pain.
Yeah, this is a veterinarian too, and now the state is suspending that vet's license, but the whistleblowers who brought this problem to the vet board want to know why the state didn't revoke the veterinarian's license altogether. Dr. Eugene Aversa was the vet at the Taos Animal Shelter for just a few months before volunteers and staffers reported him to the State Board of Veterinary Medicine. The board's 27 pages of facts released this week detail 18 cases of animals who suffered or died under his care.
What I wanted out of this was to have his license revoked, period.
So in the 18 cases, the board ultimately ruled Dr. Aversa was guilty of malpractice, incompetence, and inhumane treatment. The discipline, 30 days suspension, and he has to spend a couple of weeks shadowing an experienced shelter vet. If Aversa completes these requirements, he could get 3 years probation and be allowed to practice during that time. But the state tells us that is not a guarantee. Aversa resigned from the shelter in Taos a few weeks ago, followed by the resignation of the shelter's executive director. We reached out to Aversa's attorney, but did not hear back. Well, the reward to catch whoever killed Jasper, the Tasmanian devil, at the zoo in Albuquerque has doubled after a woman put $5,000 of her own money up. Last week, someone threw a piece of asphalt into the Tasmanian devil's habitat, crushing little Jasper's skull, killing him. When Laura Westman, who's from Corrales, saw this on the news, she was just like a lot of people and was brokenhearted and horrified.
I think it's important to address issues insofar as animal abuse is concerned, and this was one of the more severe cases that I've seen recently.
Crime Stoppers and the Biopark Society already put up their own reward money. The total now is at $10,000, as I mentioned. The zoo is also beefing up security to keep something like this from happening again. We checked with investigators from APD yesterday, and while the department is following up on leads, it says there's really no update on the case right now. If you have any information about who might have done this, please call police or Crime Stoppers. You don't have to give your name.
Today, a New Mexico mother accused of kidnapping her kids 20 years ago, then escaping overseas, may cut a deal to stay out of prison. Eileen Clark's attorney told News 13 that Clark will plead guilty to international parental kidnapping today in federal court in Albuquerque. The UK website says in exchange for pleading guilty, Clark may not face prison time. Clark's attorney could not comment on that. We do know in 1995, Clark fled from Placitas with her young children then after her husband John Clark asked for a divorce. They were found living in London in 2008. Officials say newly released video shows a driver tired of waiting at a railroad crossing, driving around the crossing arms. It ended up being a deadly mistake. We are not going to show you the impact, but you can see clearly what happened in this video. Police say the couple in the vehicle, they were on their way to work early this month in the South Valley. Cops say the driver tried to beat the train. The gates were down and the lights were flashing red. Cars were even parked waiting for the train to pass. The video shows the couple's car driving around the cars and driving through the gates when the train came, hit, and killed them.